COVID-19 has swept the world like no other disease in our lifetime. But if you think we were never warned about a global pandemic before, you've been living in the dark. Experts around the world had been warning us for decades until their words came true. This was especially the case after the 2002-2004 SARS outbreak, which also originated in Wuhan, China. Bill Gates is one such person who's been talking about the possibility of a pandemic for more than a decade. It's astounding that he was able to get so specific. Curious to find out more? Keep watching this video. In this video, we're giving you a roundup of 5 times Bill Gates warned the world about a pandemic. Personal blog 2010. The Microsoft founder hosts his personal blog on a website called gatesnotes.com. Almost a decade before COVID-19 gripped the world in its deadly arms, Bill Gates was busy warning the world about the dangers of a pandemic. He repeatedly emphasized spending more money on healthcare and even advised a guideline to stop an epidemic in its tracks. Bill Gates went as far as to say that the world had moved on from nuclear war and the next step was bioterrorism. He claimed that the world would not be able to handle a widespread disease, urging world governments to invest in vaccines. If only they'd listened. TED Talk 2015. Bill Gates once again emphasized on humanity's messed up priorities in 2015 when he devoted his entire TED Talk to combating future viruses. His iconic phrase, "not missiles but microbes," meant that the biggest danger to humans came from microorganisms instead of nuclear weapons. His speech makes it seem like he was almost convinced that another pandemic was on the way. The billionaire repeatedly referred to past epidemics, stating that the next outbreak would be much scarier than Ebola. Global efforts against viruses also came under heavy fire as Gates criticized slow and shoddy efforts against Ebola. He unveiled a plan to create a more efficient system that included pairing medical and military forces when needed, developing better healthcare in developing nations, and running germ simulations so that we could always be prepared.
If we start now, we can be ready for the next epidemic.
Interview with the BBC 2016. Further building on his past statements, Bill Gates said in an interview to the BBC Channel 4 News that he hopes that a new flu outbreak doesn't hit the world before 2026. In the interview, he was disappointed with the global efforts against the Zika virus. He said that it would be a tragedy if a fatal virus hit us, as the world is already too vulnerable.
We are a bit vulnerable right now. If something that spread very quickly, like say a flu that was quite fatal, that would be a tragedy, and new approaches should allow us to reduce that risk a lot.
Munich Security Conference 2017. While Bill Gates has been a huge advocate for higher healthcare spending, it still comes as a surprise that Gates decided to revisit that topic in a security conference, which is probably the last place to be talking about pandemics. The former richest man on earth said that the world was at the mercy of a microbe. Whether man-made or natural, a widespread virus could claim the lives of 30 million people and cause an economic crisis. He predicted that a virus would hit the world in 10 to 15 years. Turns out his timeline was a little off, but his words came true nonetheless.
Epidemics don't respect borders, and so these are investments that should be made. I think this is a very positive step.
The Shattuck Lecture 2018. Gates brought up pandemics yet again in April 2018 at the Shattuck Lecture. The multi-billionaire stated that the world was still very unprepared when it came to widespread disease. He mentioned how global responses to Ebola and Zika were too slow and infrastructure broke down way too rapidly. Expressing concerns over the threat of bioterrorism, Gates mentioned how even a non-state actor could develop a potentially deadly disease. A simulation run by Gates' team in the 2018 lecture showed that a deadly virus resembling the 1918 flu would kill 30 million people. Eerily enough, the simulation showed the virus originating in China. Later in the lecture, he stated that it would most likely be a novel virus that would wreak such havoc. Seems fishy. That's a wrap for our list of the 5 times Bill Gates warned the world about a pandemic. Which one of them have you heard about, or have you heard of any not mentioned in this video? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for similar content. See you in the next one.